Hey, I'm Justin Berry with the Plains Paris Real Estate Team right here in Kansas City. If you're thinking about moving to Kansas City, or you already live here and you're thinking about moving up or moving down, moving out, moving in, reach out to us immediately at 816-439-8705. Hit that button and ring that bell too. That way you're notified every time one of these videos comes out. We really want to put this content out there to start educating people. You see, so often people get online, click a house, they're ready to buy, and we're doing all of this work, getting them caught up, especially mentally, to be prepared to do what they need to do to be able to walk through the door of their dreams. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe. That way you're getting this content, and that the day that you're ready to pull the trigger, you're completely prepared. We are so excited to be part of this journey with you, moving you to the next chapter of your life. So as your guide, all you have to do is point the direction. We're going to guide you there. Real estate can be very complex, and our job is really just to make that simple. So part of making that simple is really preparing you for maybe pitfalls or maybe turbulence that may lie ahead. And our job is to make sure that you're obviously prepared for that. So this video, we're going to talk about how to best mentally prepare for this journey. So buying a home can be one of the most stressful things that you do, and I don't want you to take that lightly, because often one of the biggest hurdles that we have when it goes through the process of moving is actually getting out of our own way sometimes. So these are the 5 tips that I've found are going to best prepare you for moving forward. Number 1, you really want to embrace a growth mindset. You see, a lot of people have a good idea of what they think real estate's going to look like. Maybe you bought a house 10 years ago. The thing about real estate, though, is that it changes so fast. Already this year, we've seen the market go to almost a stop, back to multiple offers on the market. And most of our clients are really, they're not talking to us or another professional. They're really getting their information from the news, and often the news is 3 to 6 months behind. I mean, just think about it. How many times do you know a story better than the news got it? But everybody else, they only know what the news told them. But you know, because you were a part of that certain story, and the news only got it part right. As a realtor, I see that all the time. In fact, I'll see 2 articles go out, one that says one thing, market's going up, and they turn around the next day and have an article saying it's doomsday. So keep in mind that us professionals, we're in this every day, and we can actually see, like a holiday weekend we just went through, we can see that the market dried up for 4 days. I know with my experience that every holiday weekend does that, and it's going to come back on next week. So you really have to enter this market, enter this process with an open mind, and be willing to pivot, use all that information to your advantage, and make sure that you're keeping a growth mindset. Okay, number 2, practice informed optimism. So again, this is going to be a challenging endeavor, especially if we're competing with a lot of other buyers for properties. So you really have to keep your optimism up. Too often I see people leave the market before they had their opportunity to win. There's an expectation that the day you want to go buy the house, that there's going to be a house available, and that has not been the case for the last few years. So we obviously have different techniques. We can go out on the market just like the typical real estate agent and find houses. We can also find houses before they've ever been listed. Both of those generally take some time. Going out and getting an offer written and having it rejected, we got to go back and look at that. Sometimes it's going to battle to learn the lesson, and then keep ourselves optimistic. We don't want to lose the war because we lost a battle. I've done this, more than 700 times. I've been through thousands and thousands of homes. I promise you, the house that you're in love with, there is another one like it just around the corner. We just have to keep our optimism up and our spirits high enough. That way you're still in the position to pull the trigger when that one pops up. Number 3, you want to seek professional guidance. One of my favorite quotes, and I'm going to totally butcher this, but it basically says that you should never ask advice from someone unless you want to stand in their shoes. When we're buying a house or we're asking, life advice from people that care about us really want to protect us. And sometimes that protection can actually hold us back. I own a business, and I remember telling people that my family, that I was going to start a business. I was going to go down this road that nobody else in my family has ever ever done. The questions that came back to me is, what are you going to do about health insurance? What about retirement? What happens if you don't get paid regularly? What if you don't get paid for 3 months? All of those things are true. All of those things have happened. My family wanted to protect me, and I still went and rolled the dice on myself. Now, I did find professionals. I found people that had already made that journey, and they became mentors for me. I wanted to find somebody who stood where I wanted to stand. So when we're doing this in real estate, we want to make sure that the advice we're getting from people, yes, they care about us, but make sure that it aligns with your goals. Sometimes when somebody bought a house 10 years ago, they had totally different circumstances and different reasons, and they're so far removed from the emotion that they were experiencing at the time that it's still hard for them to maybe empathetically understand where you're at. We all have to live somewhere, and I'm never going to force anybody to buy a house, but I do recommend that you talk to a professional, whether that's myself, another professional real estate agent, somebody who does more than 50 sales a year, same with a mortgage officer. Those people that are professionals, they do this every day, which means there's not really an emotion. I don't even care if I sell you that house. I'm way more motivated by having the relationship. I'd rather be the person that you recommend that your mom work with because you trust me than have had one sale with you. I'd much rather be your lifelong agent. And most professionals that have been in the business long enough to do more than 50 transactions a year, they've built their business the same way. I would say you want to have somebody that you care about, that's close to you, that has your best interest in mind on an emotional level, but make sure they're standing where you want to stand, and then make sure you're surrounding yourself with professionals that are able to give you unbiased, unfiltered, and professional, logical, outlook on all of your decisions. Number 4, trust your instincts, but do your due diligence and verify. So one of the things we see incredibly common the last few years, especially when it's a 2-hour market, is that a buyer will get into an emotional frenzy and they'll bid, and they can justify overpaying for a house or paying more than what the asking price is rather. But once they win that offer, they feel like they've just overpaid. Now, I know as a professional, more often than not, the listing agent that listed the property probably didn't get the right listing price, and we can talk about that and how that happens. But the buyer generally knows. They've seen other offers. They've missed out on other houses. They know what a house is worth, but that anchor price might eat them up. So you really have to trust that your instinct was correct when you wrote the offer the first time. There was a reason that you wrote it. Of course, do your due diligence. And anytime we're working with a buyer, we're doing the math. Just like I'm an appraiser, we're going to do the math and actually justify why that price should be where it is. I don't ever want anybody to pay more than something's worth. That's not my job. My job is to get you into a house at the best price that I can get you a house for. Sometimes that could be more than what they actually listed the house for. And there's different reasons agents do that. Sometimes it's to get more eyes on the property, and sometimes they just didn't know any better, especially in a market where the market's been appreciating at sometimes 18% in a quarter. Well, the house across the street sold 6 months ago. That's a terrible comp now. You would better off using a comp 2 miles away that sold last week. Well, an agent is trained, especially an agent that's been doing this a while but hasn't done a whole lot lately, they're trained to use the most proximate, the most close homes. As a professional that's in this every day, and I'm doing appraisals and we're selling hundreds of homes, I know that the buyers are shopping 5 and 10 miles in radius. So I'm more interested in what sold last week. That allows me to price my house correctly. Unfortunately, pricing a house low creates that remorse. Somebody thinks they're overpaying. And remember, price and value aren't the same thing. Price is just the sticker. I mean, think of JCPenney's. They have a sticker price and everything's always on sale. Well, what's the price? The price is really the sale price there. Same thing in this world. Just because it's underpriced, that's like the auction bidding price. That's where it starts at, and it goes up. Now, and the market may turn around in 6 months and it goes the other way, but right now that's the way the market looks. So you really have to trust your instinct. You're out there educating yourself. You're surrounding yourself with professionals, and understand that that remorse is going to kick in. That is a normal process, especially if that's the scenario that you're playing with. Number 5 is stay calm, but also be flexible. Keep in mind that real estate is an incredibly emotional journey. Yeah, it's exciting. We're gonna go find houses. You can imagine where you're gonna be, but you're also gonna have it this close and still have to haggle and negotiate with the seller who holds a lot of cards. There's just a lot of uncertainty. Even as an agent, there's uncertainty. There's things we can control and there's things we can't control, and that's going to cause a lot of emotional roller coasters for a lot of folks. So be aware of that. If you go into this process knowing that those things are going to happen and that you accept that that's part of the journey, of course, we're going to try to make that as simple as possible. We're going to head off those things because we've seen this happen before, and we do this regularly enough that we're going to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep that as smooth of a ride as possible. But real estate still does this, right? There is never going to be a perfect transaction. There's never going to be a perfect house. That's because there's people involved. If you've ever worked with people, people are people are people, and there's always variables there. Whether it's a house that's been built by people, there's going to be things that are probably wrong or done one way when somebody else said it should have been done the other. And then there's also people's emotions. So we have the seller's emotions, we've got the buyer's emotions, we have all of the other parties involved that are professionals and how they behave and how they choose to transact. And those are all potential obstacles that we have to work around. Whenever I have the other party is very eager to do something, I can see what their cards are now. So the calmer we are and the more flexible we are, the better we stand a chance at negotiating and actually getting what we want. I always say our job as real estate agent is to be calm, cool, and collected. We have to be the rock while everything else is rolling, and it allows you to express yourself and have your emotions without showing the other side your cards. That's why there's a buffer. And even as a real estate agent, when I'm buying properties, I still like having a buffer in between me and the negotiating party. That way, my emotions are still shielded from the other party. So those are the 5 tips that I have for getting mentally prepared for going to battle and hopefully winning the war of real estate. So again, we want to embrace our growth mindset. We want to practice informed optimism. We want to seek professional guidance, trust our instincts, but do verify and do our due diligence. And we want to stay calm yet flexible. You never know what's going to happen. There's lots of variables, and the biggest variable of all is, of course, people, the emotions that are involved in all of this. And you have to trust that us as professionals are going to get you there. So remember, we are your guide to real estate in Kansas City. All you have to do is point the direction. We'll guide you there. Real estate's crazy complex, but we're going to make it simple. That way you can make good decisions.